Americans have been under attack from all angles, honestly. Financially speaking, Americans are behind on credit card payments, they're late on car payments, and they're putting households at risk of repossessions. And there is an increased risk of homeowners who are finding themselves underwater. Then, of course, you got the US involvement in multiple different proxy wars. You got the Russia Ukraine war. You've got Israel Hamas. And then, of course, there's the concern that China may very well pull the US into a war if they happen to invade Taiwan, which is a very, very real and likely scenario. From cyber attacks to attacks on our critical infrastructure, increasing threats, and the like. I mean, like, we've also been seeing an alarming increase in this abnormal weather pattern lately. I don't know if you guys have been noticing the weather has been really kind of weird and more, just more aggressive lately. And this is leaving a lot of people concerned and asking some very interesting questions. By the way, if you guys are able to hear me, please just drop a quick comment. Let me know if you're able to see and hear me on this live. I really appreciate you guys. What's going on, Hannah Josiah? I got the Awakened in here as well. What's going on, guys? And also, if you could just drop a quick like for the video, that definitely helps out a ton. I really appreciate all of you. But these really off weather patterns is making people ask a lot of questions, and maybe you guys have seen it, maybe you haven't, but the questions that I'm hearing are, why are our weather patterns changing so aggressively and becoming much more catastrophic? What's going on, William? We got King Troy, Scott 2412s, Ethel Stanford. Thank you, guys. So why is the weather changing so aggressively? Like, is it climate change? Is it global warming? Is it maybe China, Russia, or maybe even the United States behind the weather changes? Your guess is as good as mine. But we're now seeing rising rivers threaten to flood northeast towns following a powerful winter storm, or actually several powerful winter storms. We're also seeing heavy rain and flooding crippling travel. More storms are also on the way. So just a quick heads up to anyone who happens to be in these flood zones. Some people say that what we're experiencing, it has been predicted in the Bible. But again, your guess is as good as mine. Now, today, I want to kind of discuss with you guys some serious issues that we're seeing here, specifically in Florida. And it's not just Florida. We're seeing it in California, Texas, New York. But we're going to talk about this recent tornado strike. And of course, its compounding effects on an already very challenging economic situation for homeowners, for buyers, for renters, all of which are in the Sunshine State of Florida. And of course, we can't ignore the elephant in the room, the skyrocketing homeowners insurance rates, guys, right? And, there are actually several comments that you guys had left me in a previous video that I wanted to kind of cover in this video, if I can find them real quick, because you guys kind of got me inspired to cover some of these things I'm going to talk to you guys about today, and some of the stories that you shared with me. Some of these things that you guys are going through, it's just staggering. And just let me know if this resonates with you. Let me know if this sounds like your situation, if you know anyone who might be going through this. And if you could just kind of maybe hopefully offer some positive inspiration for anyone who's going through some challenging situations. Because I think a lot of people are going through some challenging situations right now. And one thing I really like about our community is how supportive we all are for one another. So anyway, so Loto Max 69 says, with the price of basic stuff like eggs and meat doubling since 2020, I've reduced my I've reduced my processed food purchases to almost zero. Those processed foods have shrunk their bags and their boxes and have increased their prices. We'll be doing less trips to the stores too, but when something that's a base ingredient is on sale, or something like canned veggies, bio preferably, or little to no salt as well, I definitely take advantage of long shelf lives for those cans. Don't be afraid to buy a little extra Don't be afraid to buy a little extra freezer to store frozen meat too. I think that this is some very solid advice. I definitely wanted to give a quick shout out to LotoMax69. Thanks for leaving that comment. And this is, this, I think a lot of people are seeing this. A lot of people are experiencing this, and people are being way more savvy nowadays because a lot of families cannot afford to just be willy nilly with the, grocery budget. And yeah, there's a lot of items that, have doubled since 2020. It's just wild. And we're still seeing this. We are still seeing the effects of inflation, in spite of the fact that, the Federal Reserve and all the economists are saying that inflation is going down. Prices are still high. Bella Vita 4237 says everything is higher. In defense of Walmart, we must remember that cost has gone up as well as cost has gone up as well as to stock the shelves, and the same is for all retailers. Place the blame where it belongs, on the leaders in Washington, D.C. By the way, we do have a presidential election this year, 2022. So she goes on to say, we all suffering with high cost on everything and anything that we happen to purchase. Seniors receive increase, small increase in Social Security, but health insurance takes it away because they raise the premium. And just like they're raising insurance premiums, they're raising health insurance premiums, housing insurance premiums. Anyway, she goes on to say, I recently canceled my supplemental insurance to Medicaid as it went up to $600 per month in 2024. I also blame those who vote Democrat because they receive a kickback for doing so. What America needs is a leader who puts America and her citizens first above all others. Well, I mean, to each his own on who you vote for, but I think the sentiment is probably the same across the board. Any kind of increases you might be seeing in your Social Security is probably going to get wiped out in some other way, shape, or form. And speaking of that, Cindy Higginbotham 1652 says, "Thank you, Ron." Thank you, Cindy. If you happen to be watching the show. I noticed when people got their Social Security raise, my insurance immediately went up from the total amount of the raise. My insurance immediately went up the total amount of the raise. The little COLA increase that she got notified our state no longer covers Part B of Medicare, which is really pretty weird. Now, I hadn't heard anything about that until now, but thank you for sharing. But that is odd that your insurance would go up the same amount as your COLA increase. That sounds suspicious. And I don't want to say like the insurance companies are just like stealing from us, but hey, I don't get Social Security, so I don't see it, but this is what you guys are seeing. By the way, huge shout out to Denise Coop. I really appreciate a huge $10 super chat. So Denise says, earlier in the spring, a newspaper tied to the CCP and a military think tank in China published papers saying China had a strategy to start 3 wars to take down the U.S. economically and militarily. Oh, wow. I'm going to have to do some research on that. Denise, I really appreciate that. I hadn't heard anything about that, but I would love to try to dig that up. And if you happen to have maybe a link for that article, I would love to see that, because that would be honestly, it's very believable because we are involved in approximately 3 wars. And think about it. We've been having this conversation for a long time. If the United States is preoccupied economically, or from a military munitions standpoint in multiple different wars, imagine if a superpower like China wanted to take advantage of the United States while being in such a vulnerable position. That would be the most opportune time, I would think. But, I digress. But yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that, Denise. Very, very, very interesting. And hey, by the way, if you guys are just joining the live, feel free to hit the like button. I really appreciate the support, you guys. Got 253 people in here now. But yeah, we're seeing, this is what we're seeing here. I'm reading through you guys' comments. I'm seeing the different community posts anyway, the stories about insurance rate hikes, they're just staggering, from homeowners to car insurance, even pet insurance, which I don't have any pets, but that really surprises me. All of these insurance rates are going up, and a lot of people are feeling the pinch. So basically, a lot of these experts, they're seeing, these statistics here, and the perspective is very, very eye-opening. I mean, we're we're seeing claims, basically up to 34%. We're seeing insurance increases up to 34% in 2022, and it's climbing. I mean, you got factors like inflation, disrupted supply chains also hitting the insurance sector hard. I mean, companies are folding and going under, bankrupting, right? And you know, they're pausing new policies. These are the insurance companies doing that. A lot of these insurance companies they're closing down. I mean, we talked about how many insurance companies in Florida have pulled out, and this recent tornado in Florida, this we could see another wave of insurance companies pull out. And what do you think is going to happen when that happens? What do you think is going to happen? Number one, it's going to be harder to get insurance. Two, it's going to be way more expensive to get insurance. You think insurance is high now, and we keep seeing this increased amount of abnormal weather activity. So it's kind of a dangerous place to be right now financially, and from a safety perspective too, right? So and it's not just about the numbers; it's about real people struggling, just trying to cope with these changes, right? Um, I got some people telling me in the comments, like this one lady, she was saying how her insurance bill doubled because I think it was like her one of her some component of her insurance increased, and it caused her total insurance coverage or premium to double. Another lady talked about her condo insurance going up. Other people are complaining about their HOA going up. And, if you live in a condo, especially if you're in Florida, if you're in a condo in New York, your condo fees generally are way more expensive compared to like if you lived in a condo in, say, like, I don't know, like Alabama, or a condo in pretty much any other state. But Florida and New York, they can have condo fees that are, one, two, $3,000 a month. You know, I have an HOA fee, and my HOA fee is like $1,100 a year. That breaks down to less than $100 a month. It's a lot of money, but it's nothing in comparison to some people who are spending $1,000 or more for an HOA fee every single month. That doesn't include the mortgage payment, the insurance payment, utilities, gas bill, light bill, electricity bill, food, car, if you got a car payment, like all these different things, right? So it's no wonder that more and more Americans are finding themselves underwater, and it's a little bit concerning. And car repossessions, they're on the rise too, right? And how like sometimes it feels like you're just trying to like juggle too many things at once. Well, that's kind of what's happening with a lot of people a lot of people in their car payments and these repos right now. So here's the deal. A bunch of people out there took on these car loans that, basically they thought that they could manage, and they were able to manage them when the times were good. But a lot of people didn't realize, they weren't paying attention. They bought a lot of these cars because they had to have a new car. And a lot of these cars were overpriced. There was a supply chain problem. Inventory was low. People had to have new cars. People ran out there and bought these new cars. 60-month, 72 months, 84-month car payments, 96-month car payments, 108-month car payment terms. Who's signing up for this stuff? Anyway, apparently a lot of people are. But remember when we got those stimulus checks during the pandemic? That was kind of like a life raft for a lot of people. People were using that extra stimulus check money to kind of like, stay on top of their car payments and things, kind of help people get stable for just a little while, because we didn't get that many. But as they say, all good things must come to an end. That government money, there was like, what else did they have? They had PPP loans, EIDL. They had those what was it? Unemployment insurance boosts. They had all sorts of free, almost free money. Well, it's free. We all paying for it now, but it felt free back then. But basically, all that government money dried up, and a lot of people found themselves in a lot of hot water with their car payments. It's kind of like, trying to keep your balance when the rug has been pulled out from under you, right? So yeah. So what's going on, Charlie Parker? I'm glad you're enjoying the show, man. We got Billy Starr in the house. I got Rochelle T. I got Denise Cooper again dropping a quick comment. I got Nick J, Raymond Reed up in here, Abigail Williams, shout out. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the commentary, but let's talk about these Fitch ratings, right? So there's this Fitch rating study, and basically they found that more people with subprime loans, basically loans that were given to people with less than stellar credit. Okay. Less than stellar credit is debatable, right? So I'm willing to say that if you have a credit score in the fives, that would be less than stellar, right? Some people have, maybe 680 or something like that, FICO score, Experian, TransUnion, whatever. But if you're five anything, that's definitely not considered stellar credit, right? So anyway, they found that more people with subprime loans, basically loans that are given to people with less than stellar credit, are way behind on their car payments. And, we're talking like 60 days or more behind on their car payments. And when you miss payments like that, well, it's kind of like, you're leaving your keys out on the front steps of your house for the repo man to just come get the car, basically, if you're doing that, right? So anyway, Cox Automotive says repossessions jumped by over 20%. Now, this is a huge deal. This is a big deal, guys. It's kind of like if you had a neighborhood block party and suddenly a fifth of the people had their cars towed away. Like, just think about that, right? Not a pretty picture, right? But anyway, so the plot gets thicker. Cars are costing way more these days. I remember back in the day, I had a Honda Civic, and you could literally go to Honda and get a brand new Honda Civic for like maybe $15,000. Now, a Honda Civic, I haven't looked at the price of Honda Civics today, but I would be surprised if Honda Civics were approaching $40,000. I would not be surprised. But anyway, cars are just becoming, there's so much more these days, right? Not to mention the interest rates on car loans, they've been creeping up too. And here's the thing. I mean, Dave Ramsey would be, I already know, Dave Ramsey ain't happy about this, right? But there's no way in the world I'll be paying 40 grand for no Honda Civic. I'm sorry. But here's the thing. Because these banks and these credit unions offer financing, this is what's allowing these prices to keep going up. If people would stop buying this stuff, companies will stop charging what they're charging. But the simple fact of the matter is that when the financing is available, people just, they take the free money. They're like, hey, I'll just, what was it? Become slave to the lender just to get the thing I want today and be in debt for God knows how long with these long, loan terms. Anyway, so basically higher payments or higher interest rates, cars being more expensive, it's like a double whammy, right? So you pay more for the car, and then of course you're paying more to borrow the money just to buy the car. And of course, the longer the term of the car loan, the higher the interest rate. So it's almost like a triple whammy. Anyway, it's kind of like, it's like going to buy a burger and then finding out that not only did the burger get pricier, but they're also charging you a little bit more to sit at the table, right? So it's just kind of weird. Anyway, but guess what? Some people are shelling out more than $1,000 per month for a car payment, and to each his own. But for the average person who makes probably about, I think I read somewhere the average person in America makes, the average income in America is around $4,400 a month. So I'm just thinking, like, if the average person is making $4,400 a month and they have $1,000 car payment, that's approximately 25% of their income gone right there just to the car payment. And then of course, if you got a car payment, that means you have full coverage insurance, or at least you're supposed to have that. So that's probably another $200. So by the time you just pay for the car payment, cover your insurance, you're already at more than 25% of your income, more than likely. And this is before they've paid for where they live. They got to pay rent. They're paying a mortgage payment, unless they happen to live in a a fully paid off house, but if you got $1,000 car payment, I highly doubt you have a paid off house. I just I don't buy that. Anyway, so just imagine that, right? Like $1,000 a month every month just for your car. I mean, it's no wonder that some people are starting to slip behind. You know, that's when times are good, it might seem like, I got this. But $1,000 a month when times get tough, it may be a tough pill to swallow. Now, here's where it gets a little bit more intense. So lenders like the big banks, they're getting a lot more serious about getting their money back. They're not just sending these polite letters and reminders anymore, right? They're not doing that. They're putting bounties on these cars. Like for real. Like Wells Fargo Auto was reporting to be offering an extra $500 to the repo folks for every car that they pick up. So it's like a real high stakes game of hide and seek, but with your car. So I'm just saying, in most of these new cars, they got GPS systems on them, so they're gonna be able to find that car. So even if you park your car and put some a bunch of leaves on top, however you try to hide the car, put it in the garage, or they'll find it. And if you go to work, you may come out of work and be like, dude, where's my car? So, but so what we're seeing is kind of like this perfect storm, right? No more free money, higher costs to own a car, bigger loan rates, the banks playing hardball, and it's a real tough scene out there for a lot of people who are just trying to keep their wheels. And it's like trying to swim upstream. Like sooner or later, you just kind of run out of gas and you get swept away, right? But these hikes are not isolated, right? They ripple throughout the economy. Increased costs for businesses like nursing homes, grocery stores, all this stuff means higher prices for all of us, basically. And let's not forget the impact on the rent. Landlords, they're facing higher insurance costs. And what do you think they're doing? What do you think that the landlords are going to do? They're passing these costs on to the tenants. I mean, some people say, well, I don't want to have to deal with higher. I don't want to have to deal with my property taxes going up. I don't want to have to deal with my homeowner's insurance going up. I don't want to have to deal with HOAs and all these other fees. I'm just going to rent. My thing is, what do you guys think who do you think's paying for these things? Like, if you decide to rent, and I'm not telling you to buy a house or sell a house or rent or whatever, you do whatever you want to do, like whatever makes sense for you and your family, right? Scott says $34 trillion in debt. You're 100% right. If you decide to rent, that means you're renting from someone else who owns the house. It's obvious, right? Somebody owns the house. So if you're renting, it's not you. Well, if someone else owns that house, it's a real estate investor, maybe it's BlackRock, maybe it's State Street, Vanguard, maybe it's a mom and pop, who knows? Maybe you're renting from your parents. I don't know. But the simple fact of the matter is this. If you are renting a house, the owner of that property is paying property taxes. If their property taxes go up, who do you think they're going to try to like push that higher expense onto? The renter. So, if their HOA fees go up, who do you think they're going to try to push that expense onto? The renter. If their homeowner's insurance goes up, who do you think is going to ultimately see their rent? So basically, by choosing to rent, I don't think a lot of people, and I'm not saying like, everybody doesn't think this way, but I feel like there's a lot of people who don't realize that you're not circumventing these increases. You're just like, you're not having to write an individual check to the insurance company that's higher. You're not writing a bigger check to pay your property taxes, and you're not writing a bigger check to the HOA. You're just paying more every single month in your rent payment. And then the owner of that property makes it's just going to trickle down, just like Suzanne Downing says. It's a trickle down effect. So ain't nobody, getting away scot-free. So anyway, but Florida's in a unique situation here. And then of course, Florida people who have boats. Oh my God. If you got a boat, man, like, first of all, I met this one guy, I've been to Florida so many times. Love visiting Florida. Met this guy at one of these docks, And he told me, because there's a bunch of boats, and we were actually renting a boat, and my brother was taking us out, and he was telling us how his favorite day, or I forget how he said it, but basically it was like his favorite, he had two favorite days of his life or something like that. I'm screwing up the story. Bear with me, guys. He had two favorite days. His first favorite day was the day he bought his boat. The second favorite day was the day he sold his boat. And the thing is, most people who don't have a boat and desire to own a boat, it seems like the most awesomest thing you could buy until you own one. And you got to realize, oh, wow, I got to haul this thing around. So you may or may not have a truck and a trailer to haul it around in. And so if you didn't already have that, now you got to buy that. You got to make sure your insurance covers that. If you don't know how to drive with a boat being pulled behind your truck, you got to learn how to do that. You have to store the boat somewhere. Generally speaking, you're probably going to spend, anywhere from 50 to several $100s every single month just to store your boat, even if you don't use it. Then, of course, there's, boat maintenance. Heaven forbid, someone comes flying through, like, the no wake zone and brings a huge surge of water in, or maybe a storm comes in like we've just experienced, and the water gets really rough and it makes the boats crash into one another, and you come back and you find your boat's all smashed up. So I get why people choose to rent boats instead, right? Rent it, have fun with it, and be done with it when you're done, right? Rather than owning it and, trying to keep up with it. But anyway, that's another expense that people are paying. A lot of people are paying in Florida. I think boats are cool. I just don't necessarily want to keep up with it personally, unless you're like Jeff Bezos or, Bill Gates, and you can just like buy whatever you want, and who cares how much it costs to maintain it. But I'm not Jeff Bezos, and I'm definitely not Bill Gates. Anyway, but this isn't just about Florida though. These are nationwide issues, even global issues. And on top of that, really all states, people have boats in all states, right? Some people just have a boat and they keep it at the lake. Some people boat in the ocean. But anyway, so again, it's not just Florida. But what we're seeing is a very vicious cycle. Insurance rates go up, which increases rents, cost of living, puts more and more pressure on everybody. And, all of those who own homes, the situation with property taxes, insurance, it's turning into a real nightmare, And then, of course, we got the tornadoes. Like, these natural disasters aren't just tragic in terms of like immediate damage and loss. And of course, who do you think's paying for that? These insurance companies are paying for it, right? Like when these tornadoes come through, it's like, hopefully everyone survives, but then there's the cleanup part. And so, they have a long-term economic impact, and insurance companies are already reeling from all the different pressures. And of course, they're likely to increase rates even more. And for a state like Florida, which already is dealing with hurricanes, this is another heavy blow. So Florida is usually dealing with hurricanes. They just had multiple tornadoes come through. It's like Florida is getting more and more dangerous by the year. So this is why a lot of people are like, what's going on with these weather patterns? Like if you started seeing tornadoes whipping through like New York City, we would be like, what is going on? And it's funny how all of these different movies that have, talked about the weather and these wild events like that, the Rock movie where there was like an earthquake, I think it was San Andreas, and it's like, granted, I like The Rock, but that movie was highly exaggerated. But think about it. Some of that stuff could happen, right? Then you got that other movie, I think it was like Day After Tomorrow, where the dad and the son, basically the dad was like a meteorologist and the son was like, he was in school and he was like trying to warn everybody because his dad was basically giving him the inside scoop on what was coming down the pipeline. But basically there's a lot of these movies that are coming out and they're kind of like predicting what theoretically could happen in the future. So anyway, I just want to share some of this information with you guys because, I saw some of you guys' comments and there was some stuff that had popped off recently. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys enjoyed hanging out. If you haven't already, do hit the like button. I totally appreciate you. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your super chats, and I'm gonna see you guys on the next one. You guys take care and be safe. Oh yeah, and don't forget to subscribe if I didn't say that already. Yeah, subscribe.